Hello, all, and welcome to the beginning of a new series where I'll be focusing on the lore and the models of some of the great creators for the custom OPR armies. This project has been in the works for a couple of months now. I want to review some of the lore. I think there is so much great work happening in the custom army space, and I want to start off by reviewing some of the armies, the lore and models of some of our great custom creators for OPR. The custom army creator for OPR is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I believe that it's in many ways sort of the future of wargaming, and I think it's something that OPR has that's just really a game changer. So I want to do these segments to support the partner companies that support it. I believe it's so important that we have companies not only that build models, but build models that their full range fully supports their army list in OPR. So with that in mind, let's get it and let's meet our first of our creators for this series. So I wanted to start out with Dragon Trapper's Lodge. I want to say that I'm doing this primarily as a labor of love. It's just something that I'm pretty passionate about and I enjoy doing. But I do appreciate that Dragon Trapper's Lodge they were kind enough to give me access to the minis that I'm covering. Didn't ask for it, but just really appreciate that they gave me access to these models. So, and I want to say Austin over at Dragon Trapper's Lodge, he took a lot of time out of his busy schedule to meet with me, to discuss the armies, to discuss the lore. And if there's one thing that sort of came out to me that I picked up from Austin, it was passion. He's truly passionate, not only about the models, but about the lore and about their army. It's just, forgive me if I sort of nerd out a little bit about this stuff. Just talking to him really got me hyped about this. His enthusiasm is contagious. So with that in mind, the Fiends of Incandriox. Speaking to Austin over at Dragon Trapper's Lodge, the lore of his world is comprehensive, and there's a lot going on, and I love it. I think a great way to sort of introduce viewers to sort of the Dragon Trapper's Lodge world that they've created is a great way to start out with the bad guys. And with that is the Fiends of Incandriox. So let's learn a little bit more about them. In the deepest abyss of the realm, a formidable force known as the Fiends of Incandriox rises to power. Led by their malevolent leader, Incandriox, the offspring of a dreaded demon lord and a majestic dragon queen, this army of demonic dragonkind strikes fear into the hearts of all who oppose them. After centuries of imprisonment orchestrated by a rare coalition of angels and demons, Incandriox has finally broken free, and his thirst for vengeance is unquenchable. The Fiends of Incandriox draw many of their numbers from the fallen warriors of their greatest rivals, the Children of the Flame. These valiant warriors, known for their honor and righteousness, have been twisted and transformed into monstrous beings, now becoming known as Dracoth, Fiendbloods, and Shadow Worms. Once proud and noble, they have forsaken their former selves, embracing a savagery and relentless pursuit of destruction. Under the banner of Incandriox, his fiends pose a formidable threat to the realm. With a strategy that favors aggression over camaraderie, this merciless army shows little regard for their own allies, sacrificing them as mere pawns in their insatiable hunger for conquest. As they march forward, leaving a wake of destruction and despair, the Fiends of Incandriox cast a shadow that seems unbreakable, plunging the realm into internal darkness. So when we begin looking at the army rules, I think this is just some of the things to cover. So the Abyssal Circle, this is similar to some of the caster, the caster squad rules, where they gain a caster token for each member of the squad. Battle Rage is +4 charge. They've got Boom, which we've seen as a really, I mean, a lot of these rules I love sort of enforce this army that really favors aggression and sort of this willingness to sort of sacrifice models. So Boom is cool. Curse we've seen in other ones. So some of the one of the rules that's sort of unique to the army is the Eye of Madness and Eye of Mutation. So this is a similar renaming of some of these rules. That the first one is you pick 2 enemy units within 12 inches. If they fail a morale test, they take 3 hits. And then the Eye of Mutation, which is before attacking, you roll 2 dice and a 2-up. Within 18 inches, an enemy takes a blast 3. I really do like these rules, especially on some bigger and more powerful units. One of the things that I like is I like when you have these big, powerful units for them to be able to sort of do multiple things in a turn, whether that's buff things or attack things. So I love that this is a rule that's sort of central to a lot of the units in the army. And I love that it's an aggressive rule. Grappled is within 6 inches, you pick one, -2 to advance and -4 to charge. The Lord of Madness and his mutation is a rule specific to Incandriox in which it gives him both the madness and mutation. So he's able to do both of these spells. And I love that Incandriox, while a powerful character, his presence is felt on multiple squads. And I really like that. Magma Blood is basically counterattack renamed. I'm sorry, Magma Pool is counterattack renamed. Magma Blood is corrosive. Mutations we've seen already. Radiant is only really central to Incandriox, and we'll get into that a little bit. Sacrifice to the Maw is similar to Raising of the Dead for zombies. You have a new unit of a Ravener's Flesh Pit to appear within 6 inches. Sacrificial Fodder is another really cool rule where you remove D3 models from the unit and you pick a friendly wizard within 6 and gives +1s to the cast or block spell. So I like that. Again, sort of lending to the custom army of this sacrificing of pawns. I like that. Takedown we've seen already, and Warning Cry we've seen already as a counter to Ambush. For the spells, 2 debuffs, and I like that their spells are pretty aggressive. So they've got a Blast on level 1. Melt Armor is a -1 defense, which is actually a really good spell. Really good level 1 spell. Inferno is great as just 4 AP2 hits. They've got a charging spell, so that's a level 2, which is a 4 +4 to charge range. And then they have a level 3 is Consume, which is basically a character killer, 3 hits AP4. And then I love this one, which is Corrosion. Get within 12, -2 AP the next time they fight. So some really, I like that 2 debuff spells. This army, the casters of this army really lend themselves to getting in close, not really staying back. So a great way to begin talking about the army is to talk about Incandriox himself. First of all, I love I'm not going to say this a lot, but the models of this army look great. I love just the integration of dragon and the demon. Like it's really well done. So he is a quality 2/3 character. He has 2 forms. Let's talk about his hero form. He's tough 6, so he can be put into a unit. He has 4 different weapon options, and each of these weapons, I think it's really cool that they add this in the lore. Each of these weapons comes from when he has fought. He's killed 2 archangels, and he's killed 2 also demon lords. So he's claimed each of their swords. So in the hero version, he's able to pick one of these swords, and you can see Calamity, Judgment, Agony, and Virtue. So representing the two demon lords and the two archangels. So he's got Warning Cry. He can be put on an Immolator, which gives him a substantial buff. That's just the Immolator version of him. And yeah, he's a really solid character, really good for quality 2 as well. And I love that the tough 6 so that he can be a leader in a unit. The next of the characters is the Drakov Zealots. This is sort of a mid-range character, a quality 4/4, Comes with a great sword, can get put with mutations, which I think is an automatic include, and has just a lot of good upgrades. And I'll start into this. Like I said, one of the things that I think is really great about Dragon Trapper's Lodge is that the models that they have are all supported by what they have in their army list. And as a person that's a gamer who doesn't have a lot of opportunities, nor has the skill to kit bash, I think it's very important that models just sort of come WYSIWYG'd in the options you need them to. I've tried to do some kit bashing and I can, but it's hard. It's hard to find time and also just do it well. I also really like what they're doing with the caster. So they do have casters for this army, but I love how they sort of package it up with a weapon set. I think so. In other words, the caster comes with fireball. It's like it feels more caster in that they don't just get caster, but they come with a sort of like a hand weapon fireball side of things, which it sort of feels a lot more like a mage. So yeah, the Drakov Zealot comes with a Hell Cannon too. They're all pretty good options. It's really just whatever you need. I mean, there's really no bad option here. I think the Grimoire and the I think for him the Grimoire is really nice to have the fireball and the caster in there. Yeah. So the next one is this is his other upgrades for the Drakov Zealot. So Battle Rage. A lot of their characters come with the Eye of Madness and Eye of Mutation, which I think is two great upgrades to sort of put on them. Then he can be put on an Abyssal Drake or an Infernal Drake or a Hellkite. That's just up close and personal. You can just see. I love the texture on these models. It's so great. That's just the mounted version that he has, also with different weapon options. And that's just his Hellkite version that we'll get into later. I love the Hellkite. So next we have the Desecrators. And the Desecrators are female Draxi that have been corrupted. Me personally, I love the Desecrators. I think they're just a great looking model. Like, I love the helmets that they have. I love the different variants. I love just the detail where, like, the mage has some tentacles sticking out of the bottom. This is a really useful character. Very, like, you can, as a bow variant, as an assassin variant, and that's just a decent combat character. She works really well. She's got the dual daggers. She can be in scout or ambush. She can get takedown. So it really lends her as more of an assassin character. But she can also has a really good option between the bow and the shadow magic. I think the shadow magic I really like is the curse. So, and again, I love that they bundle up their casters. It's not just buying an upgrade, but they bundle up the equipment with it. And I think that's actually a really nice touch that they do for the casters that I'd love to see in other armies, where you're not just having a caster with a greatsword, but a caster is actually coming sort of with a loadout, making it feel a little more like a wizard. Desecrator, that's just up close and personal. And this is I love that it isn't just the big models that are awesome, but the small models. So the Desecrator is a personal favorite of mine. Let's get into sort of more of a straight combat character. That's the Fiendblood Blasphemer. Comes with various options as well, also with the caster upgrade. This is only a caster 1, but still he fights a little better as well. And 45 points isn't bad. Also comes with mutations, which I think is a great upgrade. And just I love that they support all of their models, and all their models with the upgrades look great. I particularly love the whip. I think the whip is so nice. Just to continue on with upgrades, also comes with the Eye of Madness and Mutation, which is actually really good for a combat character to bring one of these upgrades, just to be able to do some additional damage in addition to the charges things. I wanted to show in particular the whip. I love this whip. It's so nice. So I love how the model comes out, and I think it's just going to be a really nice model. This is the sword version as well. So let's get into the second version of Incandriox. So this is Ruin Incarnate. This is his big baddie monster form. He also has Lord of Madness Mutation, Tough 24, and in this version, he has all 4 of the swords. And so he's got 2 of the demon swords and 2 of the archangel swords all together. This is a real combat master, and he's actually worth it. He's very expensive, but I love the double Lord of Mutation and Madness that he's really able to affect 3 units a turn, and I think that sort of makes him worth the point cost. So I really like her. Feel a tough 24, quality 2. He feels like a final boss. Like, this is a model that is tough to kill, that looks great, and that is really sort of worthy of being the leader of sort of the main protagonist. So let's get into the troops. The first thing is the cultists. The cultists just look great. They're sort of what's the word? They're sort of chaff models, but I love how they took the time, and these cultists look great. Sacrificial fodder, so they're 6/6s, so they're really good chaff, and I love the sacrificial fodder. You can sacrifice some. It feels very in line with the army. You can sacrifice a few of them and get some caster buffs. I really do like that. Let's get into the Fiendish Kobolds. So this is sort of your standard troop, a 5/5 flying. So this is sort of your light infantry. And they come with your standard spear, swords, and glaives. I have the glaives showing here. Just your standard upgrades with the musician and banner. And yeah, the flying on their standard troops is pretty nice. Gets them pretty maneuverable. We then go into the Cobalt Brazers, and I love these guys, not just the models, but also just how they feel, how they're a flying fast unit, double daggers, so just going in there, attacking things. You can't give them a crossbow, which I think is interesting to like move up and shoot something, especially in front of a hand-to-hand unit that then charges them. And then you got that boom. That boom is really nice on them. So a unit that if you play them correctly and they don't get shot off can really just do some damage. So love them. Let's get into some of the mainline infantry. So these are 4/4. Drakov's Infernals are sort of your mid-level infantry. They come with great swords, and then these are the ones with the hammers. Really, all the upgrades are great, even the ones with the hell cannons, so just your standard upgrades. And yeah, just showing you, and again, I love that each of the versions also just look really nice. So the spears, and then these are the hell cannons as well, which hell cannons are super solid. At 12-inch range rending, it's a pretty nice one. Then we get into, again, another one of my favorite models are the Shadow Worms. So Shadow Worms are also the other version of the female Draxi that have been corrupted. And I love the Shadow Worm. I love the Shadow Worm models. I love the helmets on them. I love how they've got sort of this dragon lizard feel to them. Like, they feel great. These are 4/4. They're actually really solid infantry with stealth. You can give them dual daggers. They can come in for scout or ambush, but you can also run them with bows. So a very versatile unit that can be, like I said, come in. They can just ambush things, but they can also play back and do the ranged game as well. For really, you're only paying 100 points for 5 of them is a super solid deal, especially with stealth and that bow 24. They can, you put them in cover, they can shoot things, and it's very difficult for them to kind of take return fire. Hellhounds are really good as well. So this is a fast, furious unit. Attack 1 rending. This is sort of a quasi-chaff unit. 70 points is great, but they still can sort of do some damage with fast and furious. We then get into some of the more heavy hitters. So these are the Drakov Defilers. I love that these guys, so these are pretty heavy hitting with Furious Quality 3 and dual axes. You can give them flails or a twin blade. Really every version is good. And I love that you can give them that Eye of Mutation and Madness. That this is, in some of these units, they can rush in there and they can also sort of hit a unit as well. The Corruptors, so this is a really great unit. Not only are the models great, like I love the Corruptor models, but sacrifice to the Maw, so that's where they can make a Maw appear within a certain amount of inches. We'll get into that later. I'll show you that model. They come with claws. I think they're really solid with the Abyssal Circle. Like, I think that you bring, for 180 is 364 combined squad. It's a 6-man squad that can get you 6 caster tokens a turn. Corruptors are super solid, and I love that you can get 2 of those sacrifices to them all. They are a little squishy, but they're super solid. The Vengeant Fiendbloods. So this is really getting into your tough, heavy infantry. They are tough, quality 3, def 3. They've got some great hand-to-hand upgrades. Flying and Furious, also giving them a Hell Cannon upgrade is really good. It's expensive, but 4 attacks within 12. They can fly. They can generally get close range. But you can also just run them as a chain whip is a really good. And I love the whips as far as the models go. And the whips are very, it's very, an AP1 blast for a 3 up means you're generally going to hit if you get a Furious. If you get a 6 up, that's going to be 2 blasts. The Great Hammers are good. I mean, so really all 3 upgrades are great. But even just running these guys with just their chain whips, 180 points is really good as an anti-infantry tool. So these are the versions as well with just some different armaments. Yeah, and this is their Hell Cannon version as well. And I think even for 85 points with the flying, 4 attacks in rend, it's a really good unit. That can also 2 attacks AP1 is still good in hand-to-hand fighting. So the Abyssal Fiend Bloods. So these are again more heavy infantry, not quite as tough. So they've got a lower defense, but they've got that mutations, which I think is a super. Mutations is really great on the army. They also come with Eye of Madness and mutation. I think this is a great unit that can really just flying and mutations can just kind of rush in. They've got that Eye of Madness and mutation. You can actually give them a mage variant where they sort of got that AP1 blast rending. You can also do the bow variant as well, which I think quality 3 with 24 inches 3 attacks is actually pretty nicely. And it's only 300 points. So I think all 3 of these upgrades. I love, one of the things that I like about the way they've designed the armies is all the upgrades are meaningful. I have seen some of the armies where the upgrades, like there are units that have a lot of upgrades, but they're not really useful. I love that all the upgrades on these models are meaningful and they're worth bringing in the certain situation. Like that really matters. Like they're not cluttering up their army with just sort of useless upgrades. All right, so this is their bow version. Yeah, really nice. And then we've got our cavalry options. So we've got some Drake cavalry here. These are sort of the, so they're less defensive, but they've got that quality 3. They got the mutations and the Eye of Madness and mutation. So these are really more, only def 5, so they are a little bit of a glass hammer. Yeah, these guys are great. I mean, these are your standard heavy infantry with an impact 1 and then 3 attacks. Fast and Furious is great, and they come with a flail or a twin blade. I think both of the upgrades are good, So here's the other version with just a different armament. I just also wanted to sort of, the other thing I want to do is just get in close, and I love the texture on these models. And as a person who is not some sort of expert player, if you paint these, you're just going to look like a great painter, even if you just did very basic paint job. The texture on these models lends itself to being able to make a great looking model without having to be like some sort of expert painter. And I think that's a really good thing to have a good texture on models. I just wanted to show a side version and show their flail. And yeah, just look at the texture on this. Just with some, you could obviously paint this awesome, but also if you aren't a person that has a million years to spend painting a model, you could do some washes or do some dry brushings, and the texture of the model is going to make it look a lot better. So that's really important. This is the Infernal Drake Cavalry. So this is their flying heavy cav. So they're only 4/4s, but the Furious on that sort of makes up for it. 170 points is great. Right, great swords, vicious bites, and they have the impact 1. They come with the lance, great hammer. There's really all 3 of these things are useful. Like I said, you can even, I think the lance is even a good pick in that it reduces some points. And then the Hell Cannon as well is really nice. This is just up close personal. I love, again, go back to it, love the texture as well on these models. Another thing that's very important on a lot of these models is you're going to notice that a lot of the wings on these models are pretty high up in the air, and that the front and the sides of a lot of these models are pretty clear so that you can actually get pretty close with charging things. And that's a pretty important thing, that to have these models be able to be playable, right? That you're not having to like I said, the front and the sides of all of these models are pretty clear. And that's a really good thing. So this is just the Hell Cannon version as well, which I think for 30 points, 200 points is very solid for their Hell Cannon version as well. Ravenous Flet Pit. This is something that you can drop down from those corruptors that we talked about earlier. It's a really interesting model, like the whole immobile with grapple that you can slow models down. I think it's great with the corruptors. You could actually buy it on your own as sort of a pocket pick. In other words, maybe just to protect an objective or to protect some shooting units. I could actually see this being very useful as just you buy one, and if you have a shooting unit, you can sort of stick this in front of them. It is immobile, but I like it in that if you sort of can be a little cheeky with deployment and play, it can work out very well. Because 110 points, it does a lot of damage. I mean, it does a lot. If you force an opponent to get in close with it, it can really be worth its points. Let's get into the big guys. So this is the War Butcher. I mean, again, I'll go on and on, but yeah, all these models are great, and the big models are terrific. A 3/4, a tough 9, so this is definitely a mid-range heavy monster. This is just, again, they support. I love that every one of the models look great, and that every one of the upgrades are useful. Right? You can make it a more of an anti-infantry tool with that chain whip. You can actually give it a bow. And I love at the Def 3, that actually is pretty important to get a deadly 6 rending on that bow. That's a really good combination with rending and removing regen. I mean, that is actually a super good deal for just, that's basically just shy of, no, just over 300 points. That deadly 6 bow is super solid, but all of these upgrades, even the greatsword is great, getting 3 attack. Like, you can either have a close combat version that's specifically focused on that deadly killing other big guys, or an anti-infantry. So the Butcher is just great. I'll just get in close and just show, again, the texture on these models is great. And I love that they've got actually a dead, kind of a dead Draxi over there. This is the whip version, and oh man, that whip looks so awesome. I love that. This is just the Scythe version, and there's the poor unfortunate Draxi. So this is the Hellbeasts. Hellbeasts are a really good. This army isn't very shooting heavy, but I do like they've given it some options that can be a little shooty here. The Hellbeast is a 4/3, so quality 4, def 3 with tough 12. Really good shooting. So the pit cannon getting 2 shots means you could generally hit a blast 6 around there. You can actually just trade it out and just go to make this thing. You can give it just a giant blade, and then it's just a hand-to-hand guy for pretty cheap. That's going to be putting it around 245, so pretty cheap for having for the stats. Also, I think the giant bolt thrower is great. A deadly 12. Really, all you need this thing to do is hit once in a game, and you're taking on a big guy. I actually really like the bolt thrower. I think is probably I really like that as an option at just 375. That's just the pit cannon version, which is really cool. And then this is the bolt thrower version as well. And like that bolt thrower, it's I think it's really solid as well as a pick. So this is the Abyssal Hellkite. This is a mounted version. I love that it comes with the I-beam, gets the madness and mutation, tough 15. 630 is great. If you're going to pay 630, go ahead and just give it one of the madness and mutations. I love the I-beam, and in the model itself, you actually see the Hellkite doesn't have eyes and actually has an eyeball on it. So I think it's a really nice little touch. I love that this model is a nice combination of dragons and demons, and that you actually see the maw in his chest, its chest. That's just the side version as well. Again, the texture is great. This model, of course, you could paint it awesome, but if you actually, with the texture of the model itself, you could do a relatively easy paint job, and it'd look great, And I'm all about that as well. I like models that I can paint, and that I don't have to be an expert painter, and it still looks great. So yeah, that's just the back version of the Abyssal Hellkite. Well, hey, Well, a big thank you again to Dragon Trappers Lodge. Appreciate their time. Appreciate just the models they've given me. I want to try to get them printed here. So thanks a lot, and more to come.